You are listening to the Girl Talk Podcast, engaging conversations about authentic faith, brought to you by our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee. Hello there, my name is Carol.
I'm Kelly.
Hey, I'm Tricia.
And we're so glad you've gathered around the table today. I'm not sure I'm looking very forward to this one. Can I say that?
You can say that.
Yes.
I guess I just did.
Everybody's entitled to their feelings.
That's right.
So we're going to talk divorce, single parenting, all that jazz today. And I don't even know where to start. So,
well, I think part of why we're talking about this topic is because we have had a lot of women ask us to talk about this. This is not just something that we came up with, but it does. Tricia and I have a different perspective on this than you might, Carol. So I know with you being a divorced mama and a single mama, you've got a different perspective. For me and Tricia, I know from my heart, what I would love to know is how can I best support my girlfriends that are single and maybe never married, maybe widowed, maybe divorced, maybe are single mamas, or co-parenting with someone that doesn't live in their house, which makes things very difficult. What can I do as a married woman to help better understand where she's coming from and better support her in the life that she has?
Well, I guess probably let's rewind all the way back. So maybe if you have a friend who's going through a divorce right now, some of the things that I'll share today are things that I experienced myself. But one of the things that was very hard at the beginning when I was going through my divorce was that you have to decide who gets custody of the friends.
Oh, right.
Like you used to do stuff as a couple with like lots of people and like now who they feel forced to choose sides, and it's never a good situation. For me, it was never a good situation. And most of those people, we have remained friends, but not as close as we were when I was married. And so that is an initial loss. So if you have a friend who's going through a divorce, make a point to continue to connect with them on the same level that you do now. Now, that may mean saying, I'll listen all day long, but I don't need you to ask me to take a side, in that argument, because I think I don't think there's any person who's gone through a divorce who really needs to be validated in what they experienced. I mean, at some level, you're going through a divorce, so that's validation enough, right? But I think the hard part is to listen without either cheering them on to beating up their former spouse or attaboying them to, the depths of despair. So I think those are the two initial things, but continuing to connect with them on a level that's, and one of the funniest things, it's funny now, it wasn't funny then, but everybody was giving me books. Like all of a sudden my library increased because I think nobody knows what to say, so they just give you a book.
That's
here's a book.
That's true.
Yeah. You
loss.
talked about the single folks, and you're like, I haven't had any friends that have gotten divorced that I had to go through that kind of situation where, which friend do you choose? Yeah. But it did just dawn on me, I've talked about these two great neighbors that I love hanging out with. One of the things that I have to be honest, I've never really thought about doing is looking at the house to the right of me and to the left of me and across the street from me that are all single people and saying, hey, why don't you come join us for the barbecue that we're going to have this weekend? Yeah. I just default to my married couple friends without thinking and being intentional to say, I need to include the guy that lives across the street and the two girls that live next to me who are in a different life situation than I am in, but are still awesome people to hang out with.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things too, is, offer to include them, also offer to help. One of the hardest things is you no longer have two people sharing, especially if they have children, responsibilities. So when their kid's sick, they don't have a choice to stay home from work. They have to stay home. There's nobody else providing for them if something happens. So I would say another way that you can really reach out and minister to people is that you offer to help. And that can be, babysitting. That can be running to the grocery shop. I have been so incredibly blessed with a family who didn't know us before. They only have known me as a single mom, but I literally could not do life without them. Like it just if something happens and there's a snow day and school lets out early and I can't get there, they're there. And it's almost a relationship where I don't have to ask. They call and say, "Let us do this. Let us pick up your groceries. Let us,
That's great.
those kinds of things." So I would say that's a very practical way that you can, if you have a single parent in your neighborhood and their kids play ball, offer to take the kid to practice and bring them home, because you don't realize that's time in the car, just like you spend time in the car. I mean, that they can actually have a little bit of time off.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things too, when you're a single parent, you don't really get time off.
Right.
You're always parenting.
And I imagine too, as a single parent, it's hard to figure out who to trust with your kiddo. That you've got, the number of people you can trust in your life was just probably cut in half.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're looking for a babysitter for the evening. Who do you trust?
Yeah.
Who can I trust with my kid?
Yeah, absolutely.
Something all of us struggle with, but as a single mom, I would think it'd be worse.
Yeah, it is. But God provides those people. And I will say this. The number one thing, if you are going through a divorce or about to go through a divorce, I would tell you to get in a divorce care class.
Okay.
Oh, that's good. What's the benefit of that?
Divorce care, it helps you to understand that everybody goes through a set of emotions. Your circumstance may be totally different, but everybody goes through a set of emotions. It's a lot like grieving. In fact, I think the same people who do grief share are also divorce care. It's the same group.
Grieving a different kind of thing.
Grieving a different kind of thing. Exactly right. And that is healthy and that is needed. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that I did was that I worked on me, because I wasn't perfect before my divorce and I'm not perfect now. There was hard work I still needed to do on myself. And divorce care helped me work through some of those things, to talk through some of those things. It was a safe place where I can say, this is how I'm feeling. They also have divorce care for kids that helps children work through some of those emotions, which is really helpful. And so it's a great place to start. There are so many emotions and so many decisions that have to be made in the beginning. I will say it gets better because you're so hurt right now, because the relationship you thought you'd have for a lifetime is gone. There's so much emotion balled up in there that you really need somebody to help you untangle that. I am a big fan of Christian counseling.
Yeah.
Am still have my Christian counselor on speed dial today because I still need work, and I'm still a work in progress. So I would say divorce care, some good counseling, somebody to help you work through those things. Because here's the thing. You may go through a divorce today, meet somebody, fall in love. That's great, fine, well, and good. You run into the exact same problems that you did in your second marriage that you did with the one previously. And here's the thing I will tell you. Those problems will follow you through every relationship that you have. So the most important thing is to work on you before you enter into another relationship with anybody else.
And I love that you're talking about working through it biblically through a program like the divorce care, because it's not just positive attributes or motivational. It's a biblical approach to the loss and to the change. Yeah. So my husband's parents divorced when he was young, and I had no idea because my parents didn't divorce, and I was in marriage with my husband, and then learning about divorce through one step removed, I've learned that it's just so much harder than I thought it was for everybody concerned. Yeah. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about what the experience was for you, your feeling about it, so that not only you can understand your feelings, but that we can understand your feelings. So if you're a divorced person or heading into a divorce, you see you're not alone in the feelings, but also those of us that love and support our divorced friends have more of an understanding of what it's like, because if I didn't have a husband whose parents divorced, I wouldn't have known about the splitting of the friends. I wouldn't have known about you have to measure your time with this parent and that parent. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't have known about some of those painful things. So I think it's important to have a discussion about it to understand it a little deeper.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, and I almost hate to tell the story, but it happened, so I'm going to tell you. I was on staff here at the radio station when my divorce happened, and there was a small but very vocal group who thought that I should not be on the radio anymore. And I will say that I still have that email to this day. I don't know why I keep it, but I ran across it not too long ago. But I will say that was one of the hardest things for me because people automatically assume, and I've heard people say this, divorce is the easy way out. Let me assure you, it is not the easy way out. It is not. So just be careful with your words on the front end of that. I don't think that, I can't examine people's heart. Divorce was not on my radar. I didn't think that's something I would go through and that would be part of my story. And so there's the loss of the marriage, but then there's the loss of, like, I think I wrote a blog post somewhere, like, what do you wear to the death of a dream? Because for me, that's the natural progression of things. You grow up, you graduate from high school, you go to college, you meet somebody, you get married, you have children, you have a job or a career, and you raise children, and you die together in a nursing home somewhere. And so there's all these things that now I was facing as a single person that I would never get to experience as a married person. Like, I'll never get to experience a 50th anniversary. That won't be something that I get to experience. Right. And so I think just be careful because it's not the easy way out. The other thing I would tell you to do, too, is that I feel more qualified now to pray for my married friends because of what I've been through, because I know what's at stake.
Ooh, that's good.
Powerful.
So anytime that I know that a marriage is struggling, I feel probably most qualified to pray for that couple because I know what's on the other side, and I know the underbelly, if you will, of what happens when it doesn't work out and when the parties choose to go separate ways. And so that's been another kind of surprising thing that came out of it for me, because I remember years ago our church had a couples retreat, and I probably am not supposed to do this, but I did it anyway. So I ran by, there was a sign-up sheet in the lobby, like most churches do, and I just snapped a picture of it. And I prayed for those couples throughout the weeks leading up to that retreat, because I know what's at stake and I know what the pain is like. And so that was one of the ways that I just kind of secretly did my thing over to the side to ask God to move and to work in that situation.
See, the ministry you're doing now, the ministry you've done is so powerful.
And I will say it's only because of the Lord, because honestly, I joke with people now and I say, the things that go through my mind and don't come out my mouth is a small miracle and proof that I'm saved because the Holy Spirit restrains me. But it is true. God has done a work in me, and I mean, there's still healing I have left to do, honestly. And I think it's a lifelong work of trying to understand, who I am and my contribution to the world, and how I display Christ to the world. I'm not there yet, but I have learned, so much. And I always used to look at people weird when they would go through something hard, and they would be able to look back and say, it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I always used to scratch my head and go, how in the world is that? And I don't think I'm at that point yet, but I will say that my life kind of falling apart was foundational in me really solidifying my faith in Christ and saying, either this is the biggest lie I've ever believed in my life, or it's all true. And I had to decide which way I was going with that. And I decided it was all true. And I decided I was going to trust God with everything I had. and those early days were hard because I didn't have diapers, you know. I mean, y'all have heard that story a million times, and God provided diapers. And, you know, I didn't have money to pay for daycare, and God provided the money to pay for, I mean, just all these ways. I would have never known God as my provider had I not gone through a divorce. And so for that gift, I'm thankful, because I know him in a new way that I don't think I ever would before. I tell people I had an accessory faith before my divorce. It was a very nice thing to have in addition to my very nice life. But after the divorce, I had a necessity faith that I really couldn't breathe without my faith, and talking to God and really pouring out my heart to him about how I was feeling and what I was going through. So for me, I like I say, I'm not there to say it was the best thing that ever happened to me, but I have learned a lot about God, about who he is and how he cares for us and loves us in the middle of her.
So for the person who may be going through that right now, hear that there is joy, ministry, there you have a purpose beyond what you're going through right now.
And I will say, it may feel like you just to take the next breath is so hard. Like you may struggle getting out of, you may be in bed right now and you're like, I don't know if I can do it today. And there will be those days. There will. But you'll notice they'll get farther and farther and farther apart. God has always been faithful, and he won't stop now. It's not because there's something special about me that he was faithful. It's because that's who he is, and he will walk with you, and he's just as brokenhearted about your divorce as you are.
And God can redeem all things.
Promises to.
Yes.
Promises to. There's a song from Selah. They recorded it years ago. It's called Unredeemed. And it talks about the situations that we go through in our life and how there is no situation that will go unredeemed. And in the end, you may not understand it. You may not. But that's not part of the promise. You know, God didn't say, I'll make you understand everything. He just said he'd do it, you know? And so understanding's not your job. So just turn loose of that. You may never understand it. But I will say you will know him in a different way than you did before this if you will lean into him and allow him to carry you, because that's the only way this whole girl is still sitting here in this seat today. Because everything in me wanted to throw up my hands and quit. And I knew I couldn't, because all of a sudden I was a sole provider for a 2-year-old, and she just turned 14. Wow. So,
and is an amazing young woman.
And that's all the grace of God too, because with me as a mom, it's a wonder.
That's not true.
It's a wonder.
You
but
guys
she's
are a great
amazing
team.
in part because of how amazing you are.
Well,
Kelly.
but she's a good kid, and she's a lot of fun, and we have a lot of fun together. But she knows. I mean, she knows without a doubt. She'll tell you that God's work in our lives is not done yet, and that there have been a lot of days he's carried us through. So if you're in that place today, I would say, number one, go to the Divorce Care website. I think it's divorcecare.org. There is a tool on there where you can type in your zip code, and it gives you divorce care groups that meet near you. And so I would issue the challenge to you to go find one. I know the first time's going to be hard. You're going to walk in, you're going to feel awkward, but I promise you will not be sorry. Stick with it. Go find yourself a divorce care group, because honestly, that'll probably be some of the best friends that you make, because you have a shared experience. And anytime you go through anything hard with somebody, it bonds you in a way that just normal life won't. So find yourself a divorce care group. If the only thing that you can do today is to go to the Divorce Care website and sign up for the emails, they'll send you a daily email. And it was amazing to me the number of times I got an email just when I needed it. On that day that I was struggling with that particular thing. God,
the way the Holy Spirit works.
So amazing that way.
Beautiful?
Yeah. So go, if that is all you can do, go do that today. And I would say find yourself a good Christian counselor, somebody that you can talk to, a pastor who can biblically walk you through this. Because here's the thing. Your bitterness does not glorify God. Period. Like, is that really what you want to be known for? Because some people do. We know them. We can probably name them. There's somebody probably came to mind, but I decided a long time ago that when my kiddo looks back on my life, what do I want her to remember about me? What do I want people to say about me? And my bitterness does not glorify anybody. There are days I have to take that before the Lord and ask him, Lord, you're going to have to do something with this because my emotions are all over the map. There are days I'm mad. Lord, you're going to have to do something with this because I'm just mad today. He's okay with that. But that's not glorifying to God for me to put that out. And I put several, accountability partners in place years ago too, to say, if on the radio, if when I'm out speaking to a women's group, if you hear some of that bitterness coming through, please call me on it.
Somebody who could smack you right across the face.
Yeah, somebody who
love
could
friends
say,
to have.
Yeah, somebody who could say,
Yep.
that's out of line.
Yeah,
and
that's brave.
Yeah,
but necessary.
But necessary, and so I've been grateful to have those people in my life. But that's the other thing too, is just the support of, although it may be hard, if you're in a church, you're not the only one who's gone through this. Some people may have remarried and forgotten about it, but they've been through it. Mm-hmm. And don't quit going to church. Keep showing up. God will meet you there. God will meet you anywhere that your heart is open and available for him. But hang in there. It is going to get better. I promise you. I promise there's still joy to be found in living. And there's still a lot of great things ahead for you and for your family. Don't you dare give up. Don't you dare give up. Glad I had some people in my life who would say that during that time.
And probably a good message to our married girlfriends again, too, as we wrap up, that remember to pray for your single and divorced girlfriends. Remember to include them in the things that you do. And most importantly, be a great shoulder that they can come and cry on, ears that they can talk to, and a place that they can find a safe place to be heard and known and loved.
Yes. And if there's anything at all that we can do for you, we can help you. We're going to list some of these resources in the show notes so that you'll have those available to you. But reach out, Facebook page. You're also welcome to send us an email, girltalk@thelightfm.org. That's light, L-I-G-H-T. girltalk@thelightfm.org. You're welcome to email us. We love you so much. We're praying for you. We're so thankful for Fox Toyota of East Tennessee for sponsoring this season of the Girl Talk podcast. And we'll see you next time we gather around these microphones.